this committee meeting. We can start 6:01. We'll do a roll call.
Cosgray,
Present.
Foreman,
Present.
McCreary.
Present.
All right, looks like we're all present. Also in attendance, we've got village administrator, mayor. It looks like Mike Hamilton, fiscal officer. Looks like it's Bob Hankinson on the phone there too.
Yep.
Okay. So I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes from March 22nd meeting.
Wade, I'd like to move to accept those minutes. I've read over them and everything looks correct.
I guess I'll second that. I read
I
them
was
too.
gonna say I have to abstain because I wasn't there.
Yeah. So it looks like we'll vote on that. So
Okay,
favor?
McCreary
Yes.
and Cosgray,
yes.
and I believe Rick's stating so.
Staying. That's right. So do we have any visitors for the committee?
I did not get any emails, and there are none showing up on my participant screen.
All right, we can go right into order of business. The goals for 2021. Looks like wastewater treatment plant. We'll start with there with the brine tank, GTS cleaning. Go ahead.
No, that's the water treatment plant. Let's start there.
Yeah, the water treatment plant.
Okay, I want to jump down to item number 4.
Sure.
The Brown, Kumler, and Fremont Loop water line project. I was informed yesterday that 2 of the projects from District 17 have withdrawn, which means that we now have a score of 75 points out of 100 from the original 73. So it moved us up to 2 scores. They still have not decided on the cutoff point, so we still do not know whether we will be funded or not. Just a reminder, this is our 3rd attempt at a grant submission for this waterline project. We did it once through CDBG, it was rejected or not funded. Once through OPWC, and it was not selected as a project to be funded. And right now we're with what they call the Small Government Commission. And this is one of our hopes to get this project funded this year. As you see, we will have to take out, or you don't see, it's on my notes. They will give us, what we're asking for is a $92,284 grant, which is not money we have to pay back, but it also requires us to pay a $46,500 or take out a $46,500 loan. The rest of that will be money out of the water improvement fund.
Now, Terry, out of that 46,000, though, we can use our new stimulus, government stimulus for water improvement. So we could avoid a loan that and use the 46,000 from that. I mean, our projected projected allotment is still 560,000, give or take. So.
Right. And that's what I'll report out on in council. I'll be attending a webinar on Thursday, hopefully to get more money, not more money, more details on how we could spend it and to exactly how much we're going to get. Because I think Brian had talked to one of his people at the auditors in Columbus, and they mentioned something that it's 75% of the budget that was in place at the time of February, which if you remember, we had our temporary budget in place and not our permanent. So I'm looking forward to the seminar on Thursday, put on by the budget committee, which I hope will help clear up some of these unknowns. Right now, I know everybody thinks that right now, I think everybody thinks they know what's going to be funded and what we can use it for. But the good thing about it is we have till 2024. So that means the council can sit down and do a strategy or planning session to decide how we want to go forth with the money. And it would be a good opportunity for us to put in some water lines. So that's my dissertation on that.
Excellent. Thank you.
So I want to go on then to item number 6, and this is one of the water lines that we have. We have 2 water lines that we have in our proposed projects for this summer. One of them is Park Street and one is at Maple Street. Both of these we're going to pay through our water improvement funds. So we have received the materials for both the Market Street and Park Street projects. And why I say that is because what we're trying to do is get the hot taps installed prior to any paving and prior to putting in the water lines. So we look to have those hot taps installed sometime next week. So I think we're moving along on that. The next item is item number 8, the PLC backup. Joy has been in contact with BSI Engineering, and they are putting everything together now so that we can back up both the wastewater treatment plant, the ground storage tank, and the tower. So we should have more on that next week. But again, this is one of our planned projects. Number 9, I move on to for the unaccountable water. This is something that the EPA is going to be looking at in the future. Our unaccountable water was well above average, but we're not the only ones. One of the things that we're doing is we have had quite a bit of water usage, and you'll see that when we get to the metrics. And so our first target of a big meter is going to be at the wastewater treatment plant. When they were doing the dewatering process last week or the week before last, they use a lot of water. So I have asked Joey to get a quote for a big, for what we call a dual or super duper water meter so that we can start tracking that in case we dewater again or whatever. But we have also decided, as we are brainstorming through this, and again, when we get to the metrics, you'll see, is that we need to take our one hydrant meter, which we do have, and there is a hydrant at the lower portion of the wastewater at the wastewater treatment plant that we can install this hydrant meter on for a reading, and then have Brad pull out of there. So we're looking at a couple of ways to, get that unaccountable water in line. That's all I have for water. I'd like to move on to the wastewater projects.
If I may I ask a question, please?
Yes.
Excuse me, being that I'm relatively new to this, could you tell me the acronym PLC? What does that stand for, please? Because I'm noting any of the acronyms that I'm uncertain.
It's program logic.
Thank you.
It's in the computers. And thanks for asking. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know it's logic.
Okay,
so
I just wanted to make sure I don't miss
Yeah.
anything. So
Yeah,
The-
you're good at that.
Yeah, it's a programming logic controller.
Yeah.
The simple way to think of it, Brandy, is it does for whatever they're doing there. A video card for your computer is actually a PLC.
Okay. That makes sense to me.
So-
I'm just noting any of these acronyms I'm uncertain of. I don't want to just assume.
Oh.
So thank you.
Absolutely. You need to ask because, in my world, I use a lot of them. So please ask me, Brandy.
Oh, I get it. Education's the same. Thank you.
Moving on to wastewater treatment plant. I'll have more specifics when I go over the metrics on what we did last week. Most of these are on hold until we had our issue at the plant resolved, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when we go over the metrics. Moving on to streets, the biggest one I think is the big hit, and I think we talked about this before, but I just wanted to make sure everybody heard this, is that OPWC in the state has allowed us to take all of our street projects and bid them at the same time that we're bidding out the state contract. That is going to be immense help to us as far as getting more contractors to bid on it. Plus, the mobilization charges and stuff will be a lot less and this would be for the Park Street repaving project that we're going to do from Cliff down to the Summers Choice and then up Summers Choice. So this is Mike Crane from B3, I have to give him credit. He is the one that got this for us. So this is a big success story if we can do this. So I can't wait to see how that comes out. I'm going to move on to land and buildings. The old firehouse will be power washed this week and in preparation for painting. And of course, as you know, painting is all contingent upon, weather. So we are getting started. The police department, we've selected a color of a light gray to replace the tan or brown or whatever you want to call it. Everybody thinks it'll look real sharp with white trim. So you will see a change there in color wise, and those will come after the firehouse. I have added one to this list, and it'll be on your agenda next time, and it's the Opera House, mainly because we have the roof repairs going on there. We're all ready to go. We had a little bit of a hiccup getting the contractor registered and stuff, but now we're ready to go. So as soon as he can get stuff around, we should be seeing some action there either later this week or next week. Moving on to cemeteries. We still do not have the price of replacing the stained glass window at Basel Memorial with just plain glass. That was a request of committee to do. I'm still waiting on that price. As far as I added another one called cemetery maintenance, because I think it's important to know that we do activities in the cemetery. We always say we don't have enough money, and I think it's important the council understands that there are still requirements that we have to do for care. This week alone, we have went around to all of the fresh graves that have happened over the winter or late last year. We've replaced with new soil and seeded them to get them to start growing. I want to take a moment here to tell you that we were able to hire a gentleman on staff that as a seasonal worker. I talked to him in the office last Thursday. He is very excited about the position. He would like to be around for a while. He said that he enjoys the work. He went through his background check last week too. And so things seem to be working really, really well. He's very motivated, self-motivated, and I really like that. So that means the supervisor doesn't have to stand around and say, okay, now for your next job, I want you to do this. Tim said he went in the other day, he had all the mowers torn apart and washed down. And so this is a good hire. I'm very excited. I'm not sure we're going to be able to find that second person that we were hoping to put on this summer for seasonal help, because the job market is not there. People, I don't know whether everybody is working that wants to be working or what, but it's a challenge. So we probably will not see that second person for the season. Last on this list is utility support. We did go pick up the new work truck last week at the dealership. It's already been, inventory has already been installed in it. It looks really good. I ordered strobe lights for it today so that if it's taken to a work site on the street, everybody can see it's there. So I want to thank you very much for allowing that purchase. It was more than needed. Mr. Little was very happy to unpack the little gray car with all of his tools and everything he's been using for job sites. So thank you very much. I move on right now to that was sort of the village department reports, to tell you the truth. We have a park and recreation board meeting this coming Wednesday night.
Are you going to go through the metrics for village departments?
Oh, let's do that. Well, it's not all village departments, but let's jump to the metrics. Very good. Thank you, Mayor. Page 1, you will see that between the beginning of the year and March 1st, we've had 4 water breaks, with the one on Maple Street being the, smallest water break. I don't think that it's more than is usual for this time of the year, coming off of a cold and thaw in the ground thawing out, but we have had 4 of them. Any questions on this graph?
Yeah, it looks good.
All right. I'm going to jump to graph number 2. This is the wastewater treatment plant, and it definitely does not look normal. And we all know it doesn't look normal because of the top graph of the dewatering and everything being shut down or running slow. So right now, I don't consider this a very good looking graph, but at least, you know, it's getting better. I think that we will, the trains are starting to get up to where they need to be running. Brad has put a phone call into Jack Jones so that we can have him come in and review the trains. We're going to start cleaning those out because of the weather that we anticipate coming, the rain. We're putting that off probably until next week before we do any cleaning, just because, well, we don't want to get into we want to be able to prevent any overflows that we can possibly prevent, I guess is the best way to say it. When Jack Jones is here, Wade, he will be talking to the team about some of your ideas. Jack Jones is a person from Suez, like we had talked about before. So everybody's kind of excited about that. In the graph below that, you will see this is the usage at South Central. Brian was not very happy this month, as you can see, because the usage was very high. As you can see, the usage compared to the prior years is up 36+%. And the usage compared to just the prior month was up 20%. And we all know that's because of what we had going on with not only the dewatering, but also the fact that the trains didn't shut off. Even though they weren't running the way we wanted them to run, they were running constantly, which increased this. I'm sorry to say, but probably next month's bill is going to be high also from the carryover from the dewatering and everything. And then hopefully we can get back down to normal. But again, once we get the membranes cleaned out so they can give us, you know, start functioning the way we want them to function, we should see it go back down. Now, I had talked to the gentleman who had come out with an idea of maybe seeing if we could put solar panels out there, but the cost of the field, putting the solar field in, et cetera, is so astronomical. They say it's not a good project for that wastewater treatment plant. So it is what it is, and the best way we can keep our expenses down, especially in electricity, is to make sure our processes are running as efficient as they possibly can, and that means keep up on the preventive maintenance, get those membranes cleaned, and to stay ahead of everything. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Good. So last week, when we were talking about dewaterization, we did haul 243 tons of sludge to Kilbarger. That was on between April 14th and April 15th. So that was a lot of stuff. So Brad had noted what I had just said about the membranes constantly running, and that really did take a lot of electricity. They just didn't have a chance. There was also some sort of a supply issue with the chlorine, and the chlorine, of course, is what we use to clean the membranes with. So we had a delay in getting the chlorine to clean the membranes, and that's why we've decided to wait until after this rain event's coming up to do the cleaning. The chlorine just came in Friday. So the only other thing that we had going on in the wastewater treatment area happened today, and pump 2 at Company Street lift station had an alarm, and it looks like we had a seal leaking. So we pulled that out today to get that sent off to get it repaired. So I'll go on to slide 3 then, and that's just first graph is just a graphic illustration of the process flows versus the rainfall that we received, and the rainfall being noted in the lower left quadrant of that slide. I'm sorry to say the right side, as you can see, we had a lot of overflows. If you remember an overflow, it could start on a Thursday and overflow to a Saturday, still be the same overflow, but it would be counted as 3 events. So while it looks like a lot of events, it's each day, each 24-hour period is counted as an event. So it's not like these were separate events that happened. Brad has been in contact with both divisions of the EPA, and they're very satisfied with everything that's going on.
So I was curious on that. With the rainfall not really being that significant, why were the overflows so significant?
That's because of it, because the membranes could not process as quickly as they needed to, Rick. They were plugged up from the heaviness of the sludge clogging the membranes. And so that it was the thickness of the sludge, which put us in that predicament, which thus we went into the dewatering and getting all the sludge out of there.
So the ingress wasn't substantially higher than normal?
No.
Okay.
Well, except that we started taking in the mill. We started taking in the mill.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that really, we can handle the flow of the mill. What happened was a cluster of many events, including the weather turning cold and the bugs going to sleep. Once the bugs went to sleep, we didn't have that extra aid that we need to be able to process that sludge.
Okay. Was their flow up substantially as well? Or I know we meter their discharge.
Yes.
Was their flow up? Well, like my question is, we know they have wells. Were they diluting as a solution to pollution? Because that phrase blew my mind when I first heard it, but is that what they're doing to stay within their parameters? Are they pumping water out of the ground to dilute their discharge? Did their flows go up substantially at the same time?
Their flows did go up, but it wasn't from well pumping. It was just from processes, from the process increasing.
Do we meter their wells at all?
Yes, we meter
their wells. Okay.
Yes, we do.
So their well volume did not increase substantially.
Okay, let me back up, Rick. We don't meter their wells. We meter their discharge. So we don't meter.
So they could use their wells to dilute their discharge to meet their requirements.
To meet their requirements of discharge.
Their discharge has to meet a certain requirement.
Yes.
My question is, could they use their wells in order to meet their requirement and substantially increase their discharge intentionally to meet their requirement? That's my question.
And the answer to that question is yes, they probably could be. That's the possibility. After this last episode, we have increased communications between the mill and the Brad, and that's one of the things that they're supposed to tell us is if it's going to increase. They have a certain minimum amount that they're allowed to go up to, and then we do what I don't want to call it a penalty charge, but an extra charge on top for being over that amount.
And that's based on the quality of their discharge, not the volume.
Correct.
So, yeah,
It's a surplus charge.
They had the mill had a higher level of,
solids.
well, it was the BOD, I think, was higher.
Mm-hmm.
And it caused more stress on the system.
Yeah, but they can lower their BOD by increasing their fresh water. And my concern is that they would use their wells to do that because it's a percentage thing. BOD is a percentage. And I guess it concerns me that we don't meter their wells. I'm not trying to say anybody's cheating. It's a logical thing to do. We're only allowed to discharge this percentage of BODs. So in order to get our BODs down to the percentage we're allowed, we're going to pump fresh water out of the ground. And there you go again, dilution is the solution to pollution. Is that what occurred, or is it not? I don't know.
Even I would go out on a limb though and say, even if they were doing that, had our trains not had 200 and some tons of sludge, we would have been able to process that extra discharge they were sending out.
That's correct. So we do have that agreement with them. Again, their operator, Patrick, did not really, I guess, maybe a little bit of disconnect when it came to even communications among themselves. But I did reach out to the plant manager. I believe that whole issue has been resolved. And again, you know, if something I'll flat right out ask Patrick if that's what he's doing, because, you know, again, you asked a question and you need an answer, and I will do that. So
Right.
I take that as an action item.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand it. That's all. I'm not accusing anybody of anything nefarious. I'm just saying we need to better understand what they're doing to meet their requirements, because I think it's going to flow down to us, and we need to better understand it. And that I just the whole BOD calculation is what leads to the dilution calculation. So it's troubling for me.
It's my opinion that there was an efficiency problem with the plant itself.
Correct.
And it sort of compounded over the 3 months with the combination of the temperature, bugs going to sleep, too much sludge, it got too thick too fast, and the solids weren't able to be dealt with properly until now. So it snowballed.
Mm-hmm.
I think moving forward, Brad, they did a great job desludging and getting everything down. Once they get the trains cleaned out and back to where they need to be, and the membranes get to the point of efficiency where we expect them, I don't foresee this happening.
Yep.
The other aspect of the project of looking into the bioaugmentation is that specific biology can be tweaked to help get through the winter by using those techniques.
Yes. And again, that's why we're bringing Jack Jones in from Suez to meet with our engineers and et cetera, because again, kind of a new area, as you know, Wade.
Right.
Good questions. Thank you. And then we'll go to the last slide. Couple of things on the last slide that is a little bothersome is you'll notice that the shut-off list is up. Last month I had, and when I first came on, they were passing out green door hangers for everybody that was delinquent and saying, if you don't pay your bill, we're going to shut you off. Well, we say the same thing on the bills every month. So we quit that 3 or 4 years ago of doing that. It was like we were managing their bills. So last month it was high, and I said, okay, let's see what we can do. So we went out and we did hang tags on all of the doors, and lo and behold, almost everybody paid. This month again, you know, it's back up, but I'm not putting tags on the door because number one, it takes manpower. You know, I believe we're just going to have to shut off. People just have to read their bills and take responsibility. I do not know why all of a sudden, with all of the stimulus money and how unemployment, nobody seems to need a job, why all of a sudden the amount of shutoffs on the list has grown, but it has. We'll keep addressing it, and I'll keep analyzing it to see if I can come up with some sort of theme, I guess I want to call it.
Hey, Terry, just,
Yes.
and if you don't know off the top of your head, I don't expect you to, but
Okay.
what in other municipalities would the average percentage be for number of accounts? I mean, we can't do a dollar to dollar comparison,
Right.
but I'm looking at this and we have approximately 1,250 accounts So 90 is going to be just around 7%, give or take a few tenths of a percent. So, we got 7% non-payment.
Mhm.
Is that average? Is that really high? Is it really low? Where do we fall at in the utility collection scheme?
Okay. In our size of villages, I have two to compare to. That would be Hebron and that would be Gambier. And if they had one or two people that didn't pay a month, that was it. We are very, very high. One of the things I tried to analyze was what is the percentage of the shutoffs that are rentals versus homeowners? And to tell you the truth, the last couple of times that I ran that analysis, it came out 50-50. So we can't always say it is the landlords. Many of the landlords, not all of them, but I will say the largest percentage of the landlords, since we started the external shut-off program, have got on board with it and have just put the bills in their name. So I can't say that it's all because of the rental properties. But I see each month, well, you have that portion of the people that are the same people all the time, but I have been seeing new names on the list that I have not seen last month and the month before that. So we're getting new people on there that hadn't been on there before. The other thing that's happening is that the agencies that help out people with their delinquent bills, and we do have quite a few of those, are getting bogged down. And so their payments aren't as quick as they usually are. So we have a couple of properties that are probably about 3 months behind, but the agencies have pledged payment, but they are just bogged down right now getting that money to make those payments. So I think it's just kind of a crazy situation right now. But I will keep analyzing that and see what I can come up with, Mayor. Does that answer your question?
Okay. It does. Thank you.
Thank you. And then the bottom portion of that graph is another one that, bottom portion of the metric is another graph that Joey and I spent a lot of time on Thursday and talking about why do we have such a difference between what water we're billing and the water that we're producing. And again, that's what led us to Brad used a lot of water when we were going through this process out there, to the point that even the neighbors on Basel Western Road were complaining about water pressure. So I am hoping that next month this gets back down to where it needs to be. Again, this is a metric that the EPA that we report out on. I will be writing that report up for 2020 very soon and share it with the council. But it is a metric that this is Joey's unaccountable water metric, you might say. So that's it for the metrics.
So is the Baltimore Downtown Revitalization Committee, do they have anything to report there, Mr. Foreman?
I thought we passed that to Brandy.
Okay.
Yes,
Sorry.
I have some things that I'd like to share real quickly. As far as the BDRC, there's just 3 things I wanted to hit upon. One, we are currently taking signups for vendors for the farmers market. Speaking of the farmers market, I will be submitting a form regarding a new sign that we are interested in having placed out in front of Ace Hardware. I'm working with, it's actually one of the vendors that we are working with. So she is making the sign for the market. We thought that would be great, having one of the vendors making a sign for the market. So I just received some information from her yesterday, so I'll be sharing that.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to let you guys know that the BDRC is hosting an event. We're calling it the Opera House Hustle. So it is a virtual 5 and 10K race but it's virtual. So there is not going to be anything in terms of on our infrastructure here in the village. We are hosting it the week of the 6th through the 13th. So you're going to be seeing some information about that, as well as some signage around the village. And finally, we are also working on our membership drive. So that's it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
So go to the old business, which is the Opera House windows.
Yes. I have been working with Steve. I reached out to Steve and he was able to give me the original grant that he presented for the windows that do not get funded. So I'm in the process of putting together an RFQ to send out to get some bids. This is not something that that can be done this year, but it prepares us for maybe 21 and are into, 22 are into 23. So I'm working on this. This will be like an ongoing project. I am not putting a short time limit on the request.
Right. Very well.
Okay.
The North Park Market Sewer collection line. That's the lining.
That is the lining. That is correct. Let me get my notes. I had that in my council report, but I'll do it now. Dryer Mallard has been everybody's busy right now. They've been pushed back to May 10th before they can get back into the village. What they have to do is do some preliminary work, which means they'll need to camera and clean the area where the new liner will be placed. Of course, then they have to make the liner. And then a couple weeks after they're in, after doing that, they will be putting the liner into the, installing it into the sewer pipe. We have one resident that Tim has been in constant contact with. She has something like what we had over on North Street a few years ago. I think her connection is in backwards or upside down. So we have to watch it when we do any flushing or anything through that area. So, but Tim is in contact with her, so we'll let her know what all the activities that are taking place. So coming soon, we should be getting this project again. That's about all I have on it now, unless you have any questions.
No, I'm good.
Good.
It goes down. The new business would be the pool.
Yes, and before Brian talks about that, I would like to give you a little bit of an update on the pool. So all of the concrete has been poured. If you haven't had a chance to go over to look at the pool, please do. Cox did a good job. Once that has been curing for a bit, they're going to be cleaning out or washing out the portion of the pool that was not repoured this year. We also are renting a power washer because the whole concrete area around the pool has sat and is pretty, I don't know, dirty, gunked up, whatever you want to call it. We'll be washing that whole area down while we have the power washer. So once we do that, we'll be getting the caulking of the pool and then painting the interior. We have reached out to a professional pool distributor this year who told us what paint to get. This paint should be good for 5 years, which is a cost avoidance project we didn't know we were doing, and because every year we've had to paint the pool. So it'll be nice to get it all caulked up and then get this paint on and not have to paint next year. He also has given Tim some products that we can, I call it scarring the stainless, but you have to rough up that stainless for paint to adhere to it. Last year, we tried to use that paint on paint for the lines for the lanes of the pool. It did not work. So he explained to Tim about this product. I believe it's acid base that he could get to put on there and then paint over it. So I'm sorry. So we're working on that. Everything's going along good. I am happy to say that the the swim team is coming back to the pool this year. They're very excited about having it open. We have the bathrooms are all ready. We installed new electric wires that the squirrels had chewed this winter, and everything is coming along well. And now I'll turn it over to Brian.
Let's see, committee. Basically, we've been discussing all the projects that's going on in the pool and so forth. I've had Jeff type up some emergency legislation for council to consider tonight. Basically, in a nutshell, right now the current fund balance in the pool fund is $12,000, $12,852 roughly. With the outstanding encumbrances, right now we have $30,000 in outstanding encumbrances. And the paint that Terry was talking about, I don't have enough money in any of the line items to basically pay for the paint. To paint this thing. We're spending a lot of money to get this pool to, and it's just taken. I believe it's taken a little more money than what we anticipated. $33,000 for the concrete. OP Aquatics was roughly $10,000. That pretty much shot the $46,000 budget all to heck right away. We got other, when they go to Ace Hardware, we had to lift, had to pay for gravel and all that stuff. That just added up and added up. The pool fund needs help to finish this project, and that's what I want council to consider.
And
Consider what?
yes,
Passing the ordinance tonight to move to basically the ordinance is going to be in twofold. One is to increase the appropriations in the general fund by transfers outline them by $20,000. Of course, then on top of that, we would increase the revenues in the pool fund by the $20,000 for the transfer in, and then budget an additional $20,000 for the repairs. Right now, I don't even have enough money to pay for the chlorine that's going to be needed this summer. The pool fund needs help this year.
All righty. So that's it for the pool then?
Oh, just a minute, Brian. I want you to also update them on how you're doing with the positions at the pool.
Last week we did hire a manager. Lonnie Lawhorn is the person's name, and I have hired one lifeguard right now. Lonnie is going to take charge of helping out, filling in the positions. Like I said, we've had it on Facebook. We've posted to school. I did get it in the town crier. It was in last week. I just missed it, Terry. It was in the paper last week, and it's going to run for this one and the next two papers, the next two circulations. Lonnie's we brought him on board last week. He's going to help out, fill in some positions there too.
So what Brian's not saying, though, committee, is that he's got a legislation tonight, 2021-13, that needs to go through committee to be passed by council for emergency to do that funding.
So I need a
it
motion
came out,
to,
it came out late this afternoon.
do we need a sponsor?
Yeah, you need a sponsor. Well, whoever makes the motion, I imagine, will be the sponsor for it for council. But yeah, it needs to. Yeah, you need to, and I'm trying to throw it up there.
All right. So while we're talking about it, I suppose I'll entertain, anybody want to make a motion to sponsor ordinance 2021-13?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to sponsor 2021-18 to increase the funds for the pool to complete the renovations. Foreman,
Yes, 13.
13, I'm sorry. I see that.
All right. I'll second the motion.
All right, so we'll call that a motion to send to council. Okay.
Ready to vote on it?
Okay, Cosgray,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes,
McCreary,
Yes.
Motion carries. We'll send
right.
ordinance 2021-13 to council.
Good deal.
All right. I think anybody have anything else?
If I can jump back 1 second, we have just a minute before, because we skipped Parks and Rec. I just want to share something with everyone, because as we've been talking about for years, getting user group control over the park and how it works. And I know it's kind of unpopular when I say I don't think the sports leagues, even though they do work for the park, should be the ones running our parks. Just kind of an email that Terry and I received recently kind of sums it up. There was a complaint about softball. It was the middle school softball team over at Johnson Park, and I think the bus might have even got stuck with when Tim put up the barricades there as well. Anyway, Terry did some follow-up to try to find out, because the school was not someone that had attended the meetings and been a part of, the user group stuff that we put into place to try to make sure we know who's using the parks. And the response we got back was, the middle school softball teams are not school sanctioned. They've always been organized through the Youth Softball Association, and the schools assist with scheduling, but they do their own schedules, coaches, and uniforms. And so it to me, it just goes to show we're working on it, we're getting it better, but we still have users of our parks that are controlling them. And to me, it's just the tail wagging the dog situation. We're getting better, but obviously we still have some ways to go. And I know it's not popular, because I hear from them all the time, hey, we put in this concession stand, so we should be allowed to schedule at the park. And I don't think that's the way it should work. So if you guys and ladies hear anything, let us know. Again, we've all been kind of on the same page the last couple of years, trying to get it squared away to where, everyone recognizes it's a village park, not the softball association or the baseball association park or the soccer group. But there's still some issues sliding through the cracks. So if you see anything or get any questions, just, let me know, or let Terry know. Brandy's on the committee, Chuck, let them know so that we can, it'll take a while, but hopefully we'll get this squared away so that we don't run into some of these problems. So I just wanted to give everybody a quick update on that email.
Right.
I found it interesting that we're trying, and yet we still have situations where the tail is wagging the dog.
Right. And that's something that is on the agenda Wednesday night for Park and Recreation's mayor, because my concern is twofold. My concern, first of all, is that, well, maybe threefold. First of all, that they're following COVID guidelines for youth sports, because bottom line, if someone comes in or files a complaint, they're going to come see me and not anyone else. Number two, that the required insurance that we require our users to carry is being carried on everybody. And number three, most importantly to me, is that all residents of the village are given the opportunity to be a part of using those ball diamonds. And to the mayor's point, we have received complaints that rec ball is shutting out a lot of young kids because they don't want to travel sports or travel in softball. So again, that's something that we're going to talk about in Park and Rec Board. So anyone that would like to join us, just let me know and I'll send you an invite.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hey, Wade.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Hey, Wade, I would like to say one thing about the Alt Park. Joe Holland, he is going to put a flagpole up, which is going to be nice out there. Joe's really doing a good job out there at the Alt Park. That's all I
Yeah,
have
it's
to say.
good.
Yes,
Thank you,
he is
Chuck.
he is the new member. If you remember, I came to council to ask if we could put on another board member. But it was said that it could come on, but they can't be voting. Joe decided that he wanted to be that member anyhow. And to Chuck's point, he is great to work with. Paperwork and everything that we requested's in. He's doing improvements. He's working through Tim. I mean, it's a very, very good relationship, and I wish we had that at Johnson Park.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, Wade,
Go
I
ahead.
would like to bring up another. One of the major problems in the village for years now has been I&I. And so I kind of tried to do a little Google searching to figure out if there were any kind of government agencies that try to assist villages with that. And I come across a thing called RCAP, and I think I've heard that term in a meeting before, but they provide, investigation, figure out where the problem's coming from, help you craft a solution, and then also provide low interest rate financing, which may or may not even be necessary at this point with the COVID money coming. And I just wonder why we haven't had them come to a meeting and see if they could help us map a way forward. Because it is one of the biggest problems that the Village of Baltimore has had for a couple of decades, if not longer. And obviously from the graphs we saw tonight, it's an ongoing problem. And I guess I contacted them a little bit, but then I kind of backed away because I didn't want to step on anybody's toes. I didn't want to get outside my lane. And I asked, hopefully, so I guess I would like for the service committee to direct the village administrator to reach out to them and see what services they could provide, or if they could give us any direction on trying to solve these problems.
Well, I think it would make sense first to let Terry tell us what we've done so we know if we even need to contact
Absolutely.
them.
Absolutely.
Thank you. RCAP and Rural Water Association have both looked at our issues. They believe that what we have did with the smoke testing and et cetera is exactly where to go, where we need to go. If you remember, council had approved having B3 be a part of our I&I process, and they are putting their final touches on their recommendations to go forward with I&I. It was not on the project list this year, only because it was already an ongoing project. But I will tell you the most important thing with our meetings with B3 is that we have to have legislation in place, because the majority of the issues we believe we are going to find will be those hookups that come from some pumps and et cetera that go right into the collection system, which are left over from years ago. Again, we've talked to representatives from RCAP. We've also had representatives from Ohio Rural Water in also. So thanks, Rick. I believe that when I roll out this project proposal from B3, you'll see we are moving forward. Again, it's something that is left over when there were combined systems. It's going to be hard to go up to a door and say, I'm sorry, you need to unhook your sump pump from the collection system and all your downspouts. So we have that legislation in place now that has what we call teeth, because it does have a penalty assigned to it. It's just not going to be, how can we say it? It's probably not going to be pretty going forward. But again,
I guess that's part of my problem is we're not providing them an alternative. And so that's on us. That's on us.
And I'd like to speak to this also, because being that I live here in the village, and I have to be honest, there's a chance that maybe my house is one of those homes that you're going to knock on my door to let me know that. So is this something we're going to phase in, and as has been mentioned, trying to educate people as to how to handle this and a timeline that's reasonable? Because I can tell you, when we purchased this house, it's going on 18 years ago, that was nothing, of course, that we looked at or thought of or anything, but
right.
It's something that I'm thinking about and I'm going to have looked at, because I don't know. And based on what I know about my house, there's probably a good chance that it is hooked up. But again, is this something we're going to phase in, or are we going to start immediately?
And that will be, and that's a very good question, Brandy. And to Rick's point, we have to be able to supply our residents some avenue to get rid of their stormwater. If we're telling them you can't have it going into the collection system, we have to give them a choice. And that means storm lines. So again, when B3 rolls out this project, there should be a timeline. We should be able to say our next steps and exactly what we're going to do. I anticipate seeing that no later than the first of next month. So
Okay.
both are very good questions. And I believe 100%, Brandy, you are correct. The more education that we can do so people understand will keep people off of Facebook making statements that they don't know what they're saying, because I've instructed all my staff cannot respond to Facebook. And there are times when we sit in staff meetings that I let them vent. You know, we have to do a better job in educating. And I am open to any method that anybody has that they think that, you know, other than the website, that you would like to see us to do. But education is the utmost importance.
It seems like it would behoove us to open up a channel of communication that seems non-threatening to people who live here in the village that don't know, that say, you know, I'm unsure, and maybe setting it up where people can open their doors, someone to go in and look, and then maybe help them with a solution versus, I mean, it seems like we need to make this.
Well, and I, you know, when we say we have the legislation that has teeth, it wouldn't be my thought that we would say, oh, you've got this hookup, your stormwater is going into the sanitary, and if you don't fix it in the next 10 days, you're going to get it. Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know if I am. I'm using myself as an example.
I know.
So.
A timeline. When I've done this in other municipalities, you get a timeline. And not everybody can always meet that timeline. Sometimes it's a financial reason. But if you come forward with a plan to address it, then you get worked with. It's those that completely ignore it that end up getting the citation. The thing we have to be careful of is, at least I think we need to be careful of, is, you know, providing an alternative. You know, that doesn't mean we have to put, if we don't have a storm drop near someone's house, we have to put one in. And I think we need to be careful about us being the ones to say, here is how you fix this, or here is how you do this, because then that liability falls back on us if they don't do it.
There are
our obligation.
But that's the problem, is we can't let them pump it on their neighbor. You can't just let them pump it in the street or pump it on the neighbor. And if they have nowhere to go with it, what do they do? That is why this problem exists, is the lack of an existing storm system.
I agree, but if I put on my attorney hat for a minute, in Ohio, water is a common problem, is what it's called. And while it's not neighborly to pump it onto your neighbor's land, unless you're unreasonably burdening their water issue, it's perfectly legal. I agree, something needs to be done, but we have to be very careful with saying we're going to provide the solution, or we're going to be the ones telling them. Otherwise, we're going to be the ones putting in the tile running from their downspouts to a newly installed sewer line or stormwater line that we haven't had planned or have any way to pay for.
But we're the only ones
responsible for it.
If you have to go across other people's property, we're the only ones who can.
Well, everyone's property goes to a street front.
Yeah, but once they breach their property lines, they're done. They can't go any. You don't want to just pump it in the street and turn them into ice skating rinks in the wintertime.
Well, that is an issue. But what I'm saying is, when we start saying we're going to provide the solution, or we're going to tell you how to fix this, we assume we could assume some responsibility and liability for that. And our job is to make sure that they're not pumping it into the sanitary, because that's a violation of state law. Our job is not to make sure how they get rid of it. It is nice and helpful to do that, but we have to be careful in how we do that. Otherwise, we're going to end up installing a whole bunch of storm lines for a whole bunch of private properties.
The good thing about, if there's any good thing about this discussion, is number one, you can see it's not an easy problem, but we have to find some solutions. But also, more and more, even though OPWC doesn't really like a lot of street projects or a lot of water or wastewater projects, they do look at storm projects. So there are avenues, there are help, there might even be help for lateral lines from the houses to the street. But again, I think it's something that we have to have a plan in place and use a roadmap to go forward and to solve it, because it's not going to be what I call a really easy project to fix. So I
mean, let's use Brandy as an example again. If Brandy has nowhere to pump her water except the sanitary, she's going to pump it on the neighbor. And
I don't get one vote. I'm just using myself.
I get that, Brady. I understand. I built the net house that is your neighbor, so I know where theirs goes.
Right.
Yeah, so I understand. I don't know where yours goes either. But if you were going to pump it anywhere, you're going to have to pump it to the north, which is downhill, in order to make it go away.
Yeah.
And then that neighbor is going to be very upset. And there is no storm structure back there to accommodate it.
Right.
So if Maple Street doesn't have one, I don't know where you would go with it. So
give me a chance.
Can't solve this problem.
Give me a chance to get this report to everyone, so that we can have a decision or make a decision based on facts. So if you just give me until, next service meeting, maybe, to make sure that we have everything together, and I'll reach out to B3 tomorrow morning and ask them how the progress is going on that. So.
Okay. And to the mayor's point, this is our problem because it is an I problem, which is the biggest problem the EPA has with the Village of Baltimore right now, and has for 2 or 3 decades. So it's our problem, whether we want to acknowledge it and own it or not, it's our problem.
We did increase the allocation of percent of income tax to the storm drops. So we've already got a fund. We did that a couple of years ago. We understand that's what's going on, and we know that we need to place more storm drops. It will happen. We just need to determine where and when. So
and I guess that's where I thought RCAP might come in, as they could better help us identify where they're needed the most.
I think the village administrator addressed that with the V3 report that's not yet out. So let's put this on the brakes on this discussion until we can read the report and figure out, what the experts have to say on it.
Okay, if it's upcoming, I'm satisfied with that, but I just feel like I've been here a year and it still hasn't made its way to me. So,
and another thing, Mr. Foreman, to that point, there's a lot of stuff to digest, to put into a report. The location of the lines, the last time they were updated, where we're seeing the smoke, what lines are currently there and what lines aren't. So there's a whole lot of information to digest. So again, it's forthcoming. So, but thank you for those comments.
So I think we have a safety meeting coming up. So I think that's about all for this committee. Does anybody have anything else before we adjourn?
I don't think so. I can make a motion to adjourn.
One thing, if we could type something on the water bills, Terry, you had mentioned education in terms of like the sanitary wipes. And I know that's been on there before. Could we put that on those bills again, maybe for 2 or 3 months, reminding people?
Right. And we do have I did a small press release or story too, that I'll get reposted back on the website and refer them to there also. But
okay,
thanks, Randy.
All right. So all in favor of adjournment? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. We stand adjourned at 7:05.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good meeting, everybody.
Bob, you there?
Bob's here. You guys ready to start safety?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, let me get my paperwork stretched around. All right. It is 7:05. We'll begin the meeting. We'll start with roll call.
Sorry, I was muted. Hankinson,
Present.
Hamilton,
Present.
McCreary,
Present.
Okay. Also in attendance, we have the mayor, the VA, is police chief there.
He's on.
Okay. And the fiscal officer. And also we have Mr. Foreman, Mr. Cosgray, and Mr. Keller. All right. Approval of minutes, March 22nd. I didn't see anything wrong with it, so I'll make a motion that we approve it.
I agree. I'll second that.
Okay. Any more discussion? Roll call.
Hankinson,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
McCreary.
Yes.
Okay. Visitors. We got anything, Mayor?
I do not see. Well, I do. I got one visitor. Is there anybody that wants to say anything at safety?
Looks like it's Steve
Here.
Kennedy.
Yep. Hearing none, I think you can go on.
Okay. We'll start with goals here for 2021. 0 workplace accidents. How we doing on that?
We're doing great. Everybody's been working safe and we're staying safe.
Okay. Are repairing the missing and worn traffic sign.
Yes. We, as a part of one of the projects, we are ordering all new street signs for all of the streets. We're putting that order in now. The street signs will be a white background with black letters, and the poles will be those poles that'll be like a U channel instead of brown, so that they won't be able to be spun around. So we'll be replacing those. We should be getting those in, and as there is time between all of the other projects we have going on, and it may be later this summer, we'll start replacing those. One of the things that we might want to think about is, what do we do with the old signs, not the poles, but the signs? Do we want to, this committee will have to decide, do you want to just dispose of them? Do you want to see if we can, I see them on for sale a lot, seeing if people want to purchase maybe the sign that they live on the street. I don't know, it's just a couple options because, in order to get rid of village property, under $1,000, I think I can do, but 1,000 or more you have to do. So you may want to think about how we want to dispose of those signs. I don't think we need to talk about it tonight, just food for thought.
Okay. I guess if you're selling them and stuff, I guess you got to figure out how much time you're going to have involved in dealing with people and collecting the money and stuff. So you might want to think about that.
Thank you.
All right. And I guess on the signs, you guys are going to start doing them later. Are they going to think about moving those no parking signs out there down there by Water Street by the mill?
Right. All of those signs will also be updated. We just this week got the computer on the internet at the fire station. That is where Peg does all of the documents and keeps track of all of the signs. So we now have her up and running. So that should be a continuing report until we get all the signs replaced, Mr. Hankinson. And those signs over by the Water Street will be some of those that we'll be replacing in addition to the street signs. So we should be back on track later this summer for that.
Okay. Anybody else have anything on signs? All right. 0 fatal accidents. I guess if number 1's good, we ought to be good with 3.
That would be the chief.
And identifying truck traffic problems, the areas, and adding a signage.
Right. We
Um,
have ordered 4 signs. One will be at
Okay.
each entrance of the village. The signs will say all truck traffic needs to stay on state routes. So I'm not sure of the delivery date of those signs, but we have them ordered. And they'll be at,
Okay.
again, each entrance.
All right. And anybody else have any goals that they'd like to add to our list? Okay, we'll go to reports. Terry, you're up.
Well, that's kind of my report, other than under old business. If you remember, I'll just roll right into that, and then the chief can come up. But I have been crunching the data as far as we had talked about how some of the parking on some of the streets, because of the width of them, we had some issues with the snowplow. I also reached out to the fire department to get their input to see if there were any specific streets that they avoid or think that is tight for them. And they agreed that there's nothing that really stands out. And I told him what streets we were thinking about. So I have got with them, but I'm looking at all the widths for all the streets, and then we'll come back with a proposal to see what the safety committee would like to do as far as parking on one side or not parking at all. And again, it's a lot of data to go through. So
Okay.
the other portion of that, Mr. Hankinson, is I believe Mr. Hamilton brought it up about the payment line there on South Basel and West Market, about it being not there, that divides the lanes. We're going to include that in that bid package when we go to bid out all the streets. Of course, the streets will have to be lined, and this will include having this Basel Market Street portion lined at the same time.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Anybody have any questions for the administrator?
Hey, Terry,
All right,
you said
please.
hold on. We got 4 signs. So that
Correct.
gets us 256 and 158 coming in.
Right.
What about Basel Street?
I did not order one for there. I mean, if you, Basel Street coming in south? Or,
Well, north and south. I mean, if trucks are coming into, I guess if we're trying to keep them on the state routes, except for when they're going to their destination,
correct,
if they're coming in off of Basel Street, they
Right.
won't see that sign because they'll be in the village driving
right.
wherever.
Okay. Well, we just approved of the proof of what the street signs need to say. We'll just up it to 6 signs. Unless you think of someplace else.
How about Basel Western, Terry?
But that would be the one coming off when you come. Well, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
There's more comes off Basel Western or off of than off of Basel.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I think this is what we'll do. I think we'll order 6 signs, and then we'll have an extra one if we find there's another area in the village that's an issue.
That would be 7 signs right now. The 4 coming in, 2
Oh,
Basel
yes.
North and South, plus
Yeah.
Basel Western makes 7.
Yeah. Thanks for that correction. 7. Got it.
Okay. I guess now it's your turn, Chief.
Thank you. Just a few little things. We start out with 3 potential new part-time officers. One of them has informed us as of last Friday, they've taken a full-time position. So we now have 2, both fortunately have quite a bit of experience, and they are both currently just looking for part-time as they're employed in the regular world doing other jobs. Wanted to bring up that we've been looking at, we try to keep an idea of what is going on with people and their concerns or whatever in the village. And, this comes and goes. It's been a problem on and off now for, years around here. And it ultimately is that depending on different parts or different places or whatever, different locations, we get calls about speed, about issues with speed. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but I want to say it's been 2 years ago now. We had a engineer and several people that lived on North Basel past the tracks who came in and I believe told council that they had observed cars in the 60+ mph range coming in to the village. Very tough area to go out and try to work traffic enforcement because quite simply, there's nowhere to really get off the road to do a lot. But we would go up there and observe nothing like that at all. And we were fortunate enough that we got with Pickerington, who let us borrow a speed data counter. And we put that up on the pole. I think we ran a 30-day history up there, if I remember correctly. And although I can't give you the exact numbers now, but I do remember it was under 3% of all the traffic that was entering the village or exiting the village was more than 9 miles over the posted limit. Speed is a very strange thing. Curvature of road, grade elevation, all of that can cause a perception of higher speeds than what the vehicles are actually traveling. So we looked at a lot of different things. We've got, we're still working the areas. We have 3 areas that right now are getting a lot of attention because it's where we're getting a lot of complaints. One is out on East Market Street. It's traffic outbound past the old Chetrons coming down over that hill. We try to work that as much as we can. Also on East Market, just past Wagner and coming into the 25-mile-an-hour zone. And we've been working that quite a bit. And of course, always the school zone area is an issue. So we're looking for something that is more dynamic and something that we can set up so that it's not contingent upon an officer being available or being called away. And we've come up with what we think is a pretty good solution. Ultimately, this is a lithium battery powered portable radar sign. It displays 3 12-inch digital readouts. So as a vehicle comes into scope, and you can set the violation speed to whatever, as a vehicle would come into scope, if you have it set at, let's say, 30 miles an hour, the sign will flash and it displays the speed of the vehicle so that the drivers are made aware that they're above that. It also collects data. It has the data collection availability. So not only could we use it for the speed side of it, we could use it for counting cars. If we're looking at an area that we're trying to determine, a road that, we've got 2 roads or 3 roads, we're trying to say where should we put our attention as far as maybe more maintenance or more enforcement or whatever. It counts the number of vehicles that would be in that area. Comes with well, it doesn't come with it, but if we go with that, we would order the universal locking bracket, which basically locks the vehicle down so that it can't be taken. It basically is like a small trailer, I guess would be the best way to describe this. We really believe that this would enhance the safety of pedestrians. We're in the summer, as you all know, we really pick up a ton of bicyclists in the area. Kids on bikes. I constantly see kids out riding on bikes alongside of some of these roadways. And I think for the cost of this, it more than would pay for itself in the safety enhancement and speed reduction. Ultimately, the cost on the unit, you can get either a solar powered or lithium battery. And I did a little bit of research, and the agencies that have bought these have all went with the lithium battery. And there's a lot of reasons for that. but it's $3,124. The bracket's $154, and they do have a shipping and handling charge, but the total charge is $3,460. But ultimately, for that price, what you're doing is you're basically buying a, I guess for a better word, a robot police officer that is somewhere that we're collecting data, we're alerting people that they're above the speed limit. And for people that live in the area, it gives them the ability that they can even monitor it themselves. I know a lot of agencies that have these, and they'll have groups that will put together a group that goes down and they record speeders, times, whatever. Now, this new one, we wouldn't have to do that because it would give us all of that. But if somebody was thinking that cars were way excessive to the speed limit, they would have that ability to, if they want to pull up a lawn chair and watch this, they could literally. So I think, again, with summer coming on in particular, and the fact that it is so mobile, we could put it in any of our speed enforcement zones. If we get complaints from a specific neighborhood, we can move it there, set it up there. It's just, when these first came out, they were about $10,000. So the price has come way down on it. But again, I just don't know, with all the complaints we have on speed and with the number of pedestrians, bicyclists, things like that, for $3,400, if it ends up saving a life or slowing cars down, I'm not sure it's not a great investment for the village.
Okay. Two quick questions, Chief. One, well, and one little comment, just so everyone knows, when the chief's saying it's kind of like a robot police officer, we still can't issue speeding citations based off of it, but it collects the data and lets them know.
Right.
But the two quick questions. One, we would also have the ability then to loan or rent this for a fee to other agencies that might need it, correct? If we weren't using it 1 week.
Right.
And two, since this just came up, we didn't necessarily budget for this in the police equipment budget for this year. And so if we did this, we would have to come out of the general fund, or have you looked at that yet?
Well, if I could say something, is I think this is not only a good tool for the police department, and I stand behind it, but I think it's a good tool for the street department. So maybe we could share some of that expense for purchasing it, meaning it could come out of streets, some of it, and out of the police department, because I think this would be a good tool for us to know, how many people are really using the street. Yes.
Because of the car counting feature.
Correct. That's correct. Because to get a car count or a traffic count, say from Fairfield County, which they will do, by the way, and they don't charge us, but you have to stand in line and wait. We would have ours on site, and I think it would be something easy that the street department could move around and could be responsible for.
It also would be great simply for the data collection. I agree.
Oh, it'd be great.
Yeah.
Be great.
Actually, I've been a truck driver. I've been through towns, and it actually does work. People do slow down if they see that they're going over the posted speed limit. It just kind of reminds them.
There's the one that I went by recently is on 40 by the Columbus School for Girls, and it flashes, and you see people flying down and then slamming, or 16, and slamming on their brakes.
Yeah. One flashes at me every day every time I go to Heath, there's one on 79 that flashes at me.
Well, and one of the things that's interesting with these is that, and the mayor kind of brought this up, people see this and they see their speed flashing bright yellow. And there's an assumption on their part that this is one of those, we're taking a picture of you speeding things, which obviously this is not set up to do that. So yeah, I think that, psychologically, I think that it really makes people take a deep breath. And let's face it, if we're all honest with each other, there's not one person in this conversation tonight that hasn't found themselves going faster than they should, not because they're trying to speed. They simply get distracted, or they're in a place they're not familiar with. and they're going from, like, say, for example, a 35 to a 25, they don't catch the sign, whatever it may be. So it's a great reminder to drivers to watch what they're doing.
That and too, Chief, you won't have to have people sitting out and clocking people driving up and down the street. You'll just be able to put a sign out, and then our officers can be out patrolling and checking, safety stuff.
Right, and that's been one of the issues. Like I said, the East Market. I really don't know how many. I mean, I could look because I keep a little log on it, but the East Market, it seems like I get out there, and if I spend 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, inevitably I'm going to get a call that's, on the west side. And when I'm over on the west side, it's the same thing. I'll get a call to the other side of town. So, that's one of the nice things about it. It's locked down. It's not going to go anywhere. It's completely rechargeable. So we just plug it in at night. They're very, very low maintenance, extremely low maintenance. And we free the officers up instead of them. Now, if we look and we say, hey, between this hour and this hour, we've got a real problem with speed, then certainly that's something that we would want to address with assigning an officer in that area.
Right, and that's the
But
cool thing about it. Like Brandy said, with the data gathering, you'll know where to focus.
Exactly.
Well,
That's exactly right.
And that helps with, because during the summer when we do the targeted speed enforcement, right now it's kind of a guess. Hey, this officer's coming in to do nothing but the traffic speed enforcement in this area. And we say, well, maybe it's, Oak and Washington today because that's where we're getting issues or something. This helps us pinpoint the areas and times of day to be able to, make the best use of that officer's time as well.
Right.
Okay. Well, we're getting short on time.
So
we are.
I was going to say, but can we maybe ask for a motion to go ahead and let the chief and Terry work out buying this? Splitting the expense just so that way they could get working on it, and maybe we could get that in place here by the time school gets out in about 5 weeks.
I'll make that motion.
Sure, I'll have a problem with that.
Second that. Great idea. Can I make? Sorry.
Well, go get your vote in. I heard a motion second.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Roll call.
Hamilton,
Yes.
McCreary,
Yes.
Hankerson.
Yes. All right, get it worked out, guys. Anybody else have anything? All right, our next meeting's May 24th, right after service. It is 7:28, meeting adjourned.
All right, 7:28. I'm going to pause the recording and stop the live stream because most of us have been on here. So we will start council probably just a couple minutes after 7:30 so that everyone can take a quick restroom break and refill their drinks.